The show is starting. The finest in underground television.
Elegy in a Country Churchyard by Thomas Gray. The curfew tolls the knell of parting day. The lowing herd winds slowly o'er the lea. The ploughman homeward plods his weary way, and leaves the world to darkness and to me. Now fades the glimmering landscape on the sight, while all the air a solemn stillness holds, save where the beetle wheels his droning flight, and drowsy tinklings lull the distant folds. Save that from yonder ivy-mantled tower the moping owl does to the moon complain of such as wandering near his secret bower molest his ancient solitary reign. Beneath those rugged elms that yew trees shade, where heaves the turf in many a mouldering heap, each in his narrow cell forever laid, the rude forefathers of the hamlet sleep. The breezy call of incense-breathing morn, the swallow twittering from the straw-built shed, the cock's shrill clarion or the echoing horn, no more shall wake them from their lowly bed. For them no more the blazing hearth shall burn, nor busy housewife ply her evening care. No children run to lisp their sire's return, or climb his knees, the envied kiss to share. Oft to their sickle did the harvest yield, their furrow oft the stubborn glebe hath broke. How jocund did they drive their team afield, how bowed the woods beneath their sturdy stroke. Let not ambition mock their useful toil, their humble joys and destiny obscure, nor grandeur here with a disdainful smile the short and simple annals of the poor. The boast of heraldry, the pomp of power, and all that beauty, all that wealth e'er gave, await alike the inevitable hour. The paths of glory lead but to the grave. Forgive, ye proud, the unpardonable fault, if memory to these no trophies raise, as through the long-drawn aisle and fretted vault the pealing anthem swells the note of praise. Can storied urn or animated bust back to its mansion call the fleeting breath? Can honor's voice provoke the silent dust, or flattery soothe the dull, cold ear of death? Perhaps in this neglected spot is laid some heart once pregnant with celestial fire, hands that the rod of empire might have swayed, or waked to ecstasy the living lyre. But knowledge, to their eyes, her ample page, rich with the spoils of time, did ne'er unscroll. Chill penury restrained their noble rage, and froze the genial current of the soul. Full many a gem of purest ray serene the dark unfathomed caves of ocean bear. Full many a flower is born to blush unseen and waste its sweetness on the desert air. Some village Hampden that with dauntless breast the little tyrant of his fields withstood. Some mute, inglorious Milton here may rest. Some Cromwell, guiltless of his country's blood. The applause of listening senates to command, the threats of pain and ruin to despise, to scatter plenty o'er a smiling land, and read their history in a nation's eyes, their lot forbade. Yet circumscribed alone their growing virtues, but their crimes confined, forbade to wade through slaughter to a throne, and shut the gates of mercy on mankind. The struggling pangs of conscious truth to hide, to quench the blushes of ingenuous shame, or heap the shrine of luxury and pride with incense kindled at the muse's flame. Far from the madding crowd's ignoble strife, their sober natures never learned to stray. Along the cool, sequestered vales of life, they kept the noiseless tenor of their way. Yet even these bones, from insult to protect, some frail memorial still erected nigh, with uncouth rhymes and shapeless sculpture decked, implores the passing tribute of a sigh. Their names, their years, spelt by the unlettered muse, the place of fame and elegy supply, and many a holy text around she strews, to teach the rustic moralist to die. For who to long forgetfulness a prey, this pleasing anxious being ere reclined, left the warm precincts of the cheerful day, nor took one longing, lingering look behind. On some fond breast the parting soul relies, some pious drops the closing eye requires. Even from the tomb the voice of nature cries, even in our ashes live their wonted fires. For thee, who, mindful of the unhonored dead, doth in these lines their artless tale relate, if chance, by lonely contemplation led, some kindred spirit shall inquire thy fate. Haply some hoary-headed swain may say, oft have we seen him at the peep of dawn, brushing with hasty steps the dews away, to meet the sun upon the upland lawn. Here, at the foot of yonder nodding beech, which wreathes its old fantastic roots so high, his listless length at noontide would he stretch, and pour upon the brook which babbles by. Hard by yon wood, now smiling as in scorn, muttering his wayward fancies he would rove, now drooping, woeful, wan like one forlorn, or crazed with care, or crossed in hopeless love. One morn I missed him on the accustomed hill, beside the heath or by his favorite tree. Another came, nor yet beside the rill, nor at the wood, nor at the lawn was he. The next, with dirges due in sad array, slow through the churchward path we saw him borne. Approach and read, for thou canst read, the lay graved on the stone beneath yon aged thorn. Here rests his head upon the lap of earth, a youth to fortune and to fame unknown. Fair science frowned not at his humble birth, and melancholy marked him for her own. Large was his bounty, and his claim sincere. Heaven did a recompense as largely send. He gave to misery all he had, a tear. He gained from heaven, 'twas all he wished, a friend. No farther seek his merits to disclose, or draw his frailties from their dread abode. There each alike in trembling hope repose, the bosom of his Father and his God.
Here before you is an opportunity to plumb the depths of the mysteries that confound and intrigue us. A chance to ask the big questions. Dr. Hal is not concerned with questions of trivial matters or of facts that are easily gathered elsewhere. Dr. Hal seeks the questions that transcend fact. He stands before you, ready to take questions that used to be brought to wise and aged sages on distant mountaintops. These questions can now be asked from the comfort of your living room. No Sherpas required. Simply direct your favorite web browser to our new and simple-to-use website, AskDrHalShow.com, or click the Ask Dr. Hal button below our live Twitch broadcast. You will be spirited away to the magical Co-Fee portal, where all you need do is submit your burning question in the handy message field, and assign a monetary value you wish to place upon it. Our stage ghost will then convey your message live to Dr. Hal, and he will answer in the manner that only Dr. Hal can. Don't worry, we never sell, share, or solicit using your provided email address. PayPal will ensure that your valuable love offering goes directly to Dr. Hal. Links to submit questions and more can be found at our website, AskDrHalShow.com. Do not let this opportunity to consult a modern-day oracle, a seer for seers, a man steeped in the arts, sciences, and esoteric studies, pass you by. We present to you, through the very miracle of the internet itself, the one and only Dr. Hal Robins, now making house calls.
Greetings and salutations.
I have new buttons, so something is bound to go sideways.
New buttons? Well, we'll see.
Oh yeah, we
Greetings,
will.
everyone.
You'll know it when it happens.
Welcome, audience, to this, our belated Valentine's Day show. Thank you all so much for joining us today.
Valentine's plus a few days.
Yeah, that's fine. Valentine's it's in the heart, you know? It's you keep it with you.
And it's already been achieved this year.
Sometimes it's on the floor.
The heart?
I prefer the day after Valentine's when all the candy goes on sale, personally.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
right? Right. Oh, yeah, I've been going through a real chocolate thing. It's horrendous. I can't get enough chocolate. I think
Your body craves it for some reason.
yeah, it's insane. But we have a new show. Here we are. It's February. It's show number 34. We have done this 34 times so far.
Wow.
Yes.
Can you believe it? Amazing.
If the fool will persist in his folly, he will become wise.
And here we are.
Proverbs of Hell state. Yeah, getting wiser all the time.
We are indeed. Professor Gofflin, I will be bringing you back a little later, but for now, we're going to go ahead and get to. Oh, you had something you wanted to say about the cartoon, I
Yes.
believe.
Actually, I did wanted to give a little information about the cartoon, a little additional info.
A great
So,
big you.
yes, that was a great big bunch of you from 1932. It actually was a very popular song that year, being covered by no less than half a dozen different artists. It was by Mort Dixon and Harry Warren, and it actually also featured in another cartoon from the same year, The Underdog by Walter Lantz Studios, featuring Pooch the Pup. So, yeah, that was a big year for that song. So very, very interesting information.
That was one of the new buttons.
I like that new button.
It
Well,
worked.
kind of. I don't like being the center stage is a little, but we'll get used to that.
Well,
Cartoons were often created around a popular song, something like the MTV videos of their day.
That's true, and especially the Silly Symphonies and Merry Melodies cartoons in particular were very fond of using popular music.
Silly symphonies, merry melodies, happy harmonies.
Yes.
All doing it.
who were the ones who did the bouncing ball thing all the time? Those are interesting.
Fleischer's too did that.
I remember as a kid hating those. Those were not my favorite cartoons as kids. I thought they were
Didn't
like,
feel like singing in the theater.
no, no, thanks. Wasn't it? It wasn't my thing. But we need to find those because they're probably kind of trippy, like we like. So those
Some of
can be
them
fun.
are.
And our audience can sing along at home.
Yes.
Follow the bouncing ball. Follow the bouncing bob. What can we do with that?
You could
I think we can
them
make that
bob
happen.
rather easily.
Huh.
If that would inspire people to follow along.
What,
Others might say, let Bob do it.
leave it to Bob. That's my new sitcom. Leave it to Bob.
Mm-hmm.
It's just me laying in a hammock.
It's a high concept.
Are you ready for some questions?
We'll see as soon as I attempt to answer the first one.
All right, very good. Professor Gofflin, we will see you in just a few minutes. Let me go ahead and find my other button here. There it is. Oh, maybe there. Yeah. Pardon me. Let's see. I have a question here. It is a $3 question. And it is from our good friend, I believe, out in Germany, Pope Schmutz. Let me bring up the whole question. What does the CIA know about Bob, and what does Bob know about the CIA? Ominous noise.
Well, that ominous noise is punctuation, or is it a suggestion about something that either know about each other? There is certainly an ominous noise in the noosphere when Bob adds an inexplicable addition to it. But the CIA, of course, does not promulgate the information that it knows. One has to deduct what it knows, and what it probably knows, as semi-informed opinion may relate, that Bob is on the move, not found in any one location, but surprisingly active at a time when many people were thought to have given him up. As for the CIA, I think Bob may hold a marker on them just to keep unpleasant revelations from emerging at an unslackful time.
Very good. See, now I should warn the audience because when I'm reading the question now, we've decided that we're going to do like close-ups and things like that and do things a little trickier. So you should see this now when I remember to do it when I read the question. So
just to make it big, I don't know how that relates to what other people are seeing.
oh, you're seeing the Zoom side of things. So it's a different animal, slightly.
Well, let's try another one of these
All right, I
questions.
have another question for you. Let me go back here to our friends at Ko-fi and see what we have in the queue. I have a $23 question from Freighter
really?
Yang Chuanosaurus.
Oh, it's a very faithful follower of our mission.
Indeed, I would miss him if he wasn't here. How do I build my own Janer device? Is this a wise or safe idea?
Well, why not build a Fraterion Chuanosaurus device? Janer's device has been constructed has been used, and now the wheel of time has turned and it has entered the collection of historical rarities and artifacts. But as widespread as its understanding of things may be, you are closer to the present moment and therefore have a leg up on Janer in creating your automatic responses to the afflictions of the moment. Janer is and was impulsive enough to let his utterances reflect his immediate reaction to current developments. This is something you have to cultivate yourself. Don't hold back. Shout these epithets out, and then you might find the ability to tweak them and make them funnier has magically floated up to your consciousness. Here is a poem by Ruth Stone. To an Ancestor. Sir, will I know your voice in paradise when I am free of the loutish flesh and risen above anguish, yea, perceiving without eyes? Before my turn, you loved the flesh that dies, even as I marveled on the compact prison. Sir, will I know your voice in paradise? Then, more than now, the meat was beset by flies, the appetite and soul by guilty fission, above anguish, yea, perceiving without eyes. My speaking voice still turns the tunes it tries. Here, where the fire is mortal, I press on. Sir, will I know your voice in paradise? You, who before my grandsire could surmise, spewed your descendants in one grand emission, above anguish, yea, perceiving without eyes. When my real ear, that in the flesh ear lies, joins with the several parts' eternal mission, sir, will I know your voice in paradise, above anguish, yea, perceiving without eyes? Thank you for your question.
Beautiful, Hal. I have a $15 question from our good friend Dr. Billy, who I should mention is the conductor on a lot of the big band music you hear on this show.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Billy.
Our favorite orchestra leader.
His question, though, is there a question you wish someone would ask but never have?
Well, Dr. Billy, I can't really know this. It may be hidden from me, you see, until the moment occurs when I feel that a necessary question is not being asked. I can't anticipate this particular thing. All questions that are asked on the Ask Dr. Hal show are necessary to the moment. They move the show forward, and they incite an answer which leaves its own voice as an addition to the symposium that we offer. I can search my memory, but of course, the question I wish people would ask the most is the one which I can answer the most successfully. But that, of course, is not up to me, but to the audience to decide. Remember, there's no reason to be inhibited about this aspect of the show or try to think of an exceptionally clever, biting, or witty question. A question from Dullsville can easily be tendered, and then it's up to me to make it entertaining and to come up with an entertaining answer. This is a responsibility that I have always accepted, and I hope that answer is good enough. This little verse is from T.S. Eliot. Children's voices in the orchard, between the blossom and the fruit time, golden head, crimson head, between the green tip and the root, black wing, brown wing, hover over 20 years, and the spring is over. Today grieves, tomorrow grieves. Cover me over, light in leaves, golden head, black wing, cling, swing, sing, spring, swing up into the apple tree. Thanks, Billy.
Well, it's hard to believe it, but it's time for our first monster movie moment.
Well, there's always time for a monster movie moment. The hour has struck.
Let me bring Amy in. There we go. Now we're all here. But yeah, it's hard to. That was a really quick Q&A segment. That was very fast.
Yes, indeed. In fact, if we might have need for more questions. So if you have any burning questions, audience, now is the time to get them in. Please do so at askdrhalshow.com. We take any and all love offerings.
Yes.
Money's good. Money's good.
Money is our way of knowing that you value the questions that you send us.
Indeed, yes.
Anyway, here is a monster movie moment. This is an old favorite, our old friend Equinox.
Oh, yes, the occult barrier between good and evil.
You know, it is. Here it comes. Oh, audience, I should mention, now is a good time to get your questions into the queue. So this is why we do this, to give you a chance to think about things and get those questions that are burning in your heart to the good doctor so that he can imbue in you the wisdom that you deserve.
Ideally.
In fact, I see some good questions in the Twitch chat right now. Please do not be inhibited. Please submit your questions at the Ko-fi
move those
portal.
over into the question queue, and we will
get them right on over.
Yes.
Be inhibited tomorrow, but get those
That's
questions in now. So here's Equinox.
A cathartic moment for the show.
Indeed. And of course, that was animation by Dave Allen and Jim Danforth, who were both sort of proteges of Ray Harryhausen. So
they were followers of Harryhausen, and Danforth had visited Harryhausen during the making of the Seventh Voyage of Sinbad. But Danforth,
yes, I believe that's correct.
I think this is true. Danforth was called in by George Lucas when they were about half through with the special effects for Star Wars, and asked if he could fix them up. And he said, well, you have just about what you need. You don't really need me. And so he missed that opportunity to take charge of all Lucas's innovative effects.
Keen eyes may also have noticed Herb Tarlick, one of the characters, went on to play the character of Herb Tarlick in WKRP in Cincinnati. So, so one of them actually went on to sort of fame and sort of fortune, maybe, if he saved his money.
After encountering monsters, there's only one career left, and that is radio.
Perhaps. Anyway, are you ready for some more questions, Doctor?
We shall see.
All right. Professor Gofflin, we'll talk to you in just a little bit.
All right.
Let me see. We did have a couple of questions come in. So let me see what we have here, Dr. Hal. Let's see. Someone we haven't heard from in a while. This is a $5 love offering from our friend Motomac.
Oh.
And
I hope he's happy with his jacket that he gained possession of last year after so long an interval.
Right, that was a heck of a jacket.
Yes.
Dr. Hal, if you ever met yourself in an alternate reality, what question would you ask yourself?
I uh, assume that the alternate me knows the things that this me does, and therefore there would be no point in asking him for any additional thing. But the very presence of a duplicate of oneself poses questions and stimulates thoughts which one does not normally have. It is a confusion between what the German philosopher Fichte called the Ich and the Nicht-Ich, the me and the not me, here confusingly blurred. One could attempt to warn one's other self, but I have a feeling the other self would say, "Oh, I know about that already." Uh, Still, if the experiment is ever a possibility, I'll certainly see how resilient it may be. Often these supernatural situations, all the stories that tell, leave you more or less where you started. The supernatural element is counterbalanced by the inability for it to have any ultimate effect. But perhaps this is simply sour grapes in those who like to try to monkey with the cosmic mainspring.
Monkey with the cosmic mainspring.
They all want to do it, these magic workers and so forth.
I want to do it. That's why wouldn't you want to do? But
Because
my
it's an unclean desire that rebounds back on you in almost all cases, according to the lore.
well, I mean, I'm not very good at doing that. I mean, that sort of thing takes practice and willpower and all
It
those
does,
things.
and
And
lots of people rush into trying to cast spells without seeking the most appropriate time, casting a horoscope, doing all sorts of things which the claptrap magic books say that you're supposed to do.
I
Well,
like most. I think is I am an armchair mysticist. I'm
hmm, that's right.
not.
One can be happy in one's armchair looking into appalling other realities rather than
Hmm.
projecting one's self there before one is ready.
Precisely true. But I have more questions. Let me see what we have. We have a question here from our very good friend Dr. Penny. It is a $10 question.
Oh, very
Why
good.
is it so difficult to remember dreams from when sleeping at night?
I know how it works, but physiologically, not necessarily how it works. But if you wake up during a dream that you are having, you will be able to carry the memory of it across the barrier from the dream world to your world. And it may also work if the dream is vivid and significant enough if you wake up right after the dream. But in the passage of mere seconds, your subconscious mind, which is organizing this dream theater for you, will pass to something else. So when you wake up is the key to whether you can remember things that you have dreamed. There is one other mechanism for it, which is rarer, and that is later on in the day, you might be doing something which just happened to remind you of something that happened in the dream. Then you can bring forward a fragment of the dream into memory. Some people practice the entire transition from the dream state to the waking state in the hope of enjoying effective dreams, where the person who dreams can take control of what is happening. This is something that doesn't have a great success record, but there are those who have done it.
Now I have here a $50 question.
Good Lord.
from a new person, but I believe it might be someone you know, Toens, Toens. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
The name isn't familiar to me, but what a
Cohen's is actually a dear friend from my streams.
Oh,
hmm.
well, there you have it. That's perfect. But
Well, I hope I can give a good answer to this one.
this is a
Let's see what it is.
$50 question. What are some good exercises for strengthening my psychic powers?
Ah, all right. Well, I can only say what has worked for some people in some circumstances, but just as we all have a different face, we all have a slightly different chemical metabolism, and our organs are more or less where they're supposed to be, but there are individual differences. And so it is with the edifice which you have constructed, your psychic inner palace. It has volutions and decorations which no one else has. And that being said, many exercises of this nature have to do with concentration, being able to compartmentalize and hold an image or a thought in one part of the mind while undergoing ratiocination with the other parts of the mind. By apparently dealing with the ghost world while one also decisively acts in the real world, one seems to strengthen this occult connection. This is what everybody who's ever done it says, but of course it is tedious and requires long practice and an automatic habit of thought. Still, what works is what one should choose, and you can't knock success. So I would say be uninhibited in seeing what works for you. Principally, one concentrates and visualizes, and then keeps that eidolon going while the rest of the business of life is being conducted. And then it may overshadow it a little bit or cast some light upon it, which will be ultimately helpful. This is a poem by Tennyson. Now sleeps the crimson petal, now the white, nor waves the cypress in the palace walk, nor winks the gold fin in the porphyry font. The firefly wakens, waken thou with me. Now droops the milk-white peacock like a ghost, and like a ghost she glimmers unto me. Now lies the earth all Danae to the stars, and all thy heart lies open unto me. Now slides the silent meteor on, and leaves a shining furrow as thy thoughts in me. Now folds the lily all her sweetness up, and slips into the bosom of the lake. So fold thyself, my dearest, thou, and slip into my bosom, and be lost in me.
Beautiful, Dr. Hill. Well, let me bring Amy in, actually. We have come to the next segment of our show, and it's kind of time to acknowledge an old friend of ours, Saint Inkfinger, who was one of the people who helped put this show together when we first started doing all this. And,
That's right.
Indeed.
Well, this
Praise
was
Saint Inkfinger.
yeah, this was his birthday this month. And in honor of that, we have a video that we played back on show number 11. I think it was May 2021. And it had to do with Dave was friends with Joe Bouchard, who was one of the folks that was one of the founding members of Blue Oyster Cult. And we just so happened to have John Shirley coming on the show that particular show period, and Joe Bouchard performed one of John Shirley's songs and did an introduction where he talked about John Shirley. So we're going to play that off for you tonight. So in honor of St. Inkfinger, we're going to play that intro that St. Inkfinger did as St. Inkfinger recorded it for us. And we hope you enjoy it, and take a minute and remember St. Inkfinger on his birthday. So
Indeed.
we miss you, man. So here it comes. But audience, get your questions in. You know, we still need those questions. We'll take
Yes,
Always.
please. AskDrHalShow.com.
You're the Ask in the Ask Dr. Hal. So without you, we're just Dr. Hal. So anyway, let me go ahead and bring that up, and we'll see you when we come back.
Ladies and gentlemen, in non-binary biological entities of all persuasions, thank you for attending the Ask Dr. Hal show. As many of you may know, I may pick a little guitar here and there. Well, me and a few local friends get together every Tuesday night on Zoom and we share a song. A couple of weeks back, my friend Joe came in and he said, "Hey, I've got this brand new song that's never been played anywhere before. And it's lyrics from John Shirley." Well, now, for the first time, you'll hear the very first performance ever of Joe Bouchard and John Shirley's "The Devil's in the Details."
Thanks to the late Saint Inkfinger.
Yeah, that
That
was
is-
Indeed.
that was a heck of a find too. We got Joe Bouchard's permission and everything to play that. That was nice.
I think one of my fondest remembrances of St. Inkfinger is that he always seemed to know a guy. He always knew everybody.
We went to his remembrance of life ceremony, I think is what they call that these days. And we were saying what a nice guy he was, and his family was like, "Did you actually know him?" So, well, I think we just saw its good side. So.
His greater family knew it.
But yeah, so it was we appreciated him on the show. He was ornery.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so we have more questions. So if you are
Very good.
ready, Professor Gofflin, I'll bring you back soon. But
All right.
let's go ahead and do what we're here to do. Let me see what I've got here for you, Dr. Hal. I have a $9 question from Reverend Numina. And it is, if you were in charge of creating a chastity device for the human brain, how would you improve upon it?
Well, that assumes I've already created one and that I'm going to fix it up and make it better. But if it's for the human brain, then clearly what needs to be done is something like was shown in A Clockwork Orange, where a chain of associations is created which automatically work against the erotic impulse. That was a side effect, an exaptation in the case of the protagonist of A Clockwork Orange, whose effort, or the effort in his behalf, was to destroy the violent impulse. But with him, Eros and Thanatos were combined and interwoven. Anyway, the trick is always repetition of the mantra or whatever it is that causes the erotic element of the brain to shut down. But why should one want to do this? Isn't this the most destructive thing that the human community, that society also does in suppressing the element which is vital and wishes to develop from the personality of the individual? We are all composed of eros and dust, after all.
I have a $5 question from Johnny is Wrong. Our old friend Johnny is Wrong. He's been with us from the beginning of the show, too.
That's correct.
Yeah, boy, we've got we have a loyal audience. Thank you, everyone.
So far.
and pitchforks and torches one day banging on your door. What is the tingling feeling I get in my heart when I think about Justin Bieber? And that's a $5 question again, Dr. Hal.
Well, I wonder if it's not some form of heartburn that you get when thinking about this popular singer. But, you know, the thing about those who are put before us as movie stars, celebrities, and performers do tend to create a similar reaction in us. And then we desire the reaction more than we desire which produced it. Perhaps your heart is tingling with scorn, feeling, oh, I could do as well as that guy. Why is he so elevated and I not as high? Or one can associate the performance of any singer or actor with a eucatastrophe, which is to say, a great and positive event which happened nearby, chronologically speaking. On one of your good days, if you heard a song, even perhaps by Justin Bieber, you would then be triggered, as I believe everyone says today, by hearing it into a recapitulation of your original feelings of rejoicing and pleasure.
I have a $15 question from Reverend Xenofact.
Oh, great. Well, he's one of our own.
Another good friend of the show.
Yes, I wonder what he could be asking.
Well, Atlantis seems to be cropping up in my life a lot these days. If Atlantis had its own sports team, what sport would they play and what would they be called?
The dolphin riders, I believe, and they actually did that. They rode the dolphin, that is to say, the porpoise, the steed of the sea, just as in the Minoan civilization, which some have confused with the Atlantean civilization. To ride the bulls was part of the sacred dance and also part of a public festival which was religious in nature. In the ancient world, and even perhaps in the Atlantean archipelago, it was standard to mix the religious festivals, which kept everyone in line with the aims of the theocratic state, with the sports events. The Romans said, give them bread and circuses and they won't revolt. Panem et circenses. So the sport in the harbor of the main island, which was called Atlantis, was the riding of these porpoises or dolphins, somewhat larger than the porpoise of today, but willing and capable of performing beautifully in the water. This, at least, is my take on it. What did you say was the sponsored amount for this question?
Oh, that was $15, Dr. Hal.
$15. All right. Well, I will say a poem. Last time I was requested to say Sailing to Byzantium by Yeats, and I was caught somewhat unprepared. So, to my own vexation, I left out a verse. Now I will say it with the verse restored, if I can do it. This is no country for old men, the young in one another's arms, the birds in the trees, those dying generations at their song, the spawning grounds, the mackerel-crowded seas, flesh or fowl, commend all summer long, whatever is begotten, born, and dies. Caught in that sensuous music, all neglect monuments of unaging intellect. An aged man is but a paltry thing, a tattered coat upon a stick, unless his soul clap hands and sing, and louder sing for every tatter in his mortal dress. Nor is there singing school, but studying monuments of its own magnificence. And therefore I have sailed the seas and come to the holy city of Byzantium. O sages standing in God's holy fire, as in the gold mosaic of a wall, come from that fire, burn in a gyre, consume my heart away, sick with desire, and fastened to a dying animal, it knows not what it is, and gather me into the artifice of eternity. Once out of nature, I shall never take my bodily form from any natural thing, but rather such as Grecian goldsmiths make of hammered gold and gold enameling to keep a drowsy emperor awake, or perched upon a golden bough to sing to lords and ladies of Byzantium of what is past or passing or to come.
Very nice, Dr. Hal. Oh, chords in the way. Here we are.
So that's what that was.
Yes.
I thought that was a cat toy for a moment.
You
The
know,
cat was
if the
singing.
cats were here, it would have been, but they're in the house. Oh, they've got a future in front of them. They're going in. Hold on, let me bring Amy in. I'm sorry, Professor Gofflin. I just dead named you. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
We're all friends here.
So, yeah, the kitties are going in this week to have their private parts manipulated
Mm-hmm.
and removed, tossed over a shoulder.
Have
Valid.
the
I can't,
problem pom-poms excised.
if anyone's had young male cats before, you can understand that I'm looking forward to this operation taking place.
Well, it may calm them down and smooth things over. We shall see.
Well, anyway,
Well, they tend to take to domesticity a little bit better after that, so we'll see.
yeah, right. Right now they're treating it like it's a prison because they're catching things on the wind. It's spring, and they smell
Oh,
things,
no.
and oh boy, do they want out that door.
Mm-mm.
But they've just gotten all their shots and dewormed and all that. So yeah, the universe like really tilted kittens into our lap.
The universe has a way of doing that. It has a cat distribution system. It can tell when you need cats.
I've been telling St. Joyce for years that it's, it feels like there's cats in the air, like the cats are going to arrive. But we've been saying that for years, and they never didn't. Well, then they did. So here they are. And it was still a surprise. We knew it was coming. But anyway, I have one more question for you, Dr. Hal, and then we're going to go to our next little segment. But Professor Gofflin, I'll bring you back in a little bit.
All right.
Let me see. I have a question here. Saw a couple of interesting ones.
Well, remember, they need not be
This.
particularly interesting until I get through with them. So just choose one.
Oh yeah. Oh, trust me. I'm with you. This is from someone. It's a $3 question. And who would win in a fight, Godzilla or Cthulhu? Let me open that up. Cthulhu. Also, what is the proper pronunciation of Cthulhu?
Well, the way you pronounced it is the way H.P. Lovecraft pronounced it. And I would think that would trump anyone else's pronunciation of it. But of course, like many of these alien names, it is represented by a clutch of consonants at the beginning without vowels. Vowels are automatically put in by humans to make the consonants pronounceable. Still, I think Cthulhu is the way Lovecraft pronounced it and the way everyone does pronounce it. But Godzilla seems incredibly difficult to kill in all of his recent incarnations, especially if you're watching the Monarch series. You may have seen he just survived the nearby explosion of a hydrogen bomb. In fact, in that series, it is put forth that all of the above-ground nuclear tests back when they were being made in the South Pacific and elsewhere were actually fighting giant monsters, and the public was not informed about this. But Cthulhu, as those who have read The Call of Cthulhu may remember, was pierced by the prow of a ship and popped, being a sort of plasmoid bubble of malign alien substance. But then as the ship steamed away, they could see from its upper works the form of Lord Cthulhu forming again. That is to say, whatever creates Cthulhu is not necessarily the flesh and substance, but the energy which causes such a being to come into existence. Godzilla, however, has always been presented as a creature of Earth. Now there are new books, even. There's a new book about how Godzilla and these other monsters are now being cast as saviors of the ecosphere and defenders of Earth's ecology. As far as the ecology of Earth, certainly Cthulhu must be indifferent to it, or perhaps have a vested interest in changing it or terraforming it, as it were, though from a different planet than Terra, since both these creatures are apparently indestructible. This is the old thing about whether an irresistible force can move an immovable object. But I would think that Cthulhu could probably prevail ultimately if they were so unwise as to continue sparring. It's also important to recognize that the original appearance of Godzilla has him die at the end of the film. All subsequent Godzillas are of the species, but not the original one. So that puts Cthulhu, who may not be able to die as we understand it, one up right there.
Well, Dr. Howe, I think now might be a good time to go to our next segment. It's our second monster movie moment. So, audience, now is also a good time for you to think of any questions that you might want to ask the good doctor. And so, here comes the monster movie moment. Audience, give it some thought, and we'd love to see your questions. Here we go. I wonder if we'll ever get back to Earth.
Well, that's a different matter, but I wonder why they didn't mention that Sid Melton was also among the crew, known to fans of Green Acres. He, in fact, is absorbed by the giant amoeba that you saw in the trailer. Well, I guess they don't need to advertise everything.
Is he the comic relief that winds up getting eaten in that
Yes,
movie? Yeah.
in that and in other movies. He's gored and nibbled by a triceratops in The Lost Continent. He usually comes to a bad end because he's too much of an obnoxious, funny guy.
It's
Typecasting.
he's so jolly he must be eaten.
Apparently.
In Cinemagic.
Yes, right.
Of course, we bring you the Dr. Hal show every month in Cinemagic.
We-
Or is it Super Dynamation? I forget which one we're using now.
Super Damnation,
Yes.
the new miracle of the screen.
That's I'm a animation.
So lifelike.
No, it's getting
Audio
less so every day. Well, listen, we've got more questions. So, Professor Gofflin, I'm going to bring you back in a little bit. Dr. Hal, if you're ready, let's go ahead and do some more questions. Audience, it's never too late. Audience, get those questions in. We'd love to see them. Let me actually spin those wheels and see if we did have anything new come in. We did indeed. Well, had a couple new come in. This one is from Mob Miati, and it is an $18 question. I can't afford enrolling in your course, but is there one piece of advice you would share in achieving success in sex and real estate?
Well, of course, the famous Dr. Hal course in success in sex and real estate was once offered. We haven't had many takers recently, but the most important thing to realize is that one should not consider sex to be real estate. The two are separate and not the same thing. And therefore, one should not think of conquest of territory, but rather a non-acquisitive act, which is on that side of your personality which balances off all of the activities of boldness and conquest in the non-sexual realm. And so simply keeping it in balance should be sufficient for guiding your approach to this matter. This is by Yeats as well. I went out to the hazel wood because a fire was in my head, and cut and peeled a hazel wand, and hooked a berry to a thread. And when white moths were on the wing, and moth-like stars were flickering out, I dipped the berry in the stream, and caught a little golden trout. When I had laid it on the floor, I went to blow the fire aflame, but something rustled on the floor, and someone called me by my name. It had become a glimmering girl with apple blossom in her hair, who called me by my name and ran and faded through the brightening air. Though I am old with wandering through hilly lands and hollow lands, I will find out where she has gone, and kiss her lips, and take her hands, and walk through long and dappled grass, and pluck till time and times are done the silver apples of the moon, the golden apples of the sun.
Beautiful, Hal. I have a I just had it here a minute ago. Give me a second. This
Slippery, eh?
was,
Got
oh
away
man,
from.
it went right through my fingers. I had to spin the wheels to see if we had stuff come in. This is a
Hmm.
$3 questions from our old friend Reverend Ramulak, newlywed Reverend Ramulak.
No, congratulations.
And, well, kind of newishly wed, I guess.
Hmm.
But his question is a $3 question, and have you ever met the residents? And what's your favorite residents album?
Hmm. I don't prioritize any one of their albums. I consider them all of a piece. I actually don't favor one over the other. Um, I suppose the answer is yes, I have met them, but when I met them, they were not the residents. They are the residents when they assume their stage persona. Until then, they are anonymously connected with their enterprise, which is why they have lasted for so long. The soundtrack to their DVD, Icky Flicks, often comes to my mind as their favorite audio, discounting the video, which is also appended.
I have $4
Yes.
question from Dr. Reverend Big John. Hello, Dr. Reverend Big John. He says, I have a long drive coming up. What's a good audiobook that's not too heavy?
Hmm. Well, that's the problem. You don't know what is too distracting and what isn't distracting. Something which involves your attention ought to be at least dramatically compelling to make you want to listen to it and go back. Otherwise, some celebrity tell-all book or a self-help bunch of bromides would do just as well. But for actual literature, which involves narrative, any of the first major novels of H.G. Wells would be recommended. And if we want an author who is more contemporary, the late Philip Kerr has created a wonderful series about the private detective Bernard Gunther. The first of these books is actually a 3-in-1 called the Berlin Noir trilogy. Bernard Gunther is a wonderful detective in crime fiction in the tradition of Philip Marlowe. He makes fantastically funny wisecracks about his predicament, but that predicament is to be a detective in the middle of Nazi Germany, where everybody is a criminal, and his entanglement with famous figures like Heinrich Himmler, and Goebbels often enliven the proceedings. These books are incredibly interesting, and I would think that at least one of them has made it to an audiobook. The author is Philip Kerr, Kerr.
Dr. Howe, I have a $30 question from another old friend of the show, Reverend Agrajag.
All right.
And this is a train leaves Chicago at 50 miles per hour, westbound. Another train leaves Oakland going east at 65 miles per hour. It is raining in Kansas City. Simultaneously, a butterfly flaps its wings on the south shore of Lake Tahoe. How long before I get tired of writing this question?
I surmise that you were tired of it when you ended it. And the coda of how long before you got tired was your way of escaping from the necessity of having to continue it. So often we find that the answer to the question lies in the question itself. All of those factors naturally combine to produce the answer and have now just done so.
Oh, that was a $30 question. Did you want to?
Oh, it was. So here we go. I was trying to think of what the sponsorship was. The Mulips. The shadows where the Mulips dwell are dark and wet as ink, and slow and softly rings their bell as in the slime you sink. You sink into the slime who dare to knock upon their door, while down the noisome waters pour and grinning gargoyles stare. Beside the rotting river strand, the drooping willows weep, where gloomily the gore crows stand, croaking in their sleep. Over the misty mountains by a long and weary road through the spider shadows and the marsh of toad, and through the wood of hanging trees and the gallows weed, you go to find the Mulips, and the Mulips feed. The cellars where the Mulips dwell are dark and wet and old, with single flickering candle lit, and there they count their gold. Their walls are wet, the ceilings drip, their feet upon the floor go softly with a squish, flap, flip as they sidle to the door. They peep out slyly. Through a crack their feeling fingers creep, and when they finish in a sack, your bones they take to keep. Over the Murloc Mountains by a long and weary way, through the world of shadows where the skies are gray, by a dark pool's borders without wind or tide, moonless and sunless, the Mulips hide. Thank you. That poem is by J.R.R. Tolkien. You've heard a version of it from me, so there you are. Perhaps it will be sounded again at some future time.
Well,
with less explanation.
we,
Well,
we have a second cartoon coming up, I guess, in honor of Valentine's Day, I guess.
yes, the path of true love
Indeed.
never did run easily, and of course, once a relationship is formed, it must be maintained. And now we will see how Daffy Duck does on trial for marital infelicities in the court of animal relations under presiding Judge Porky Pig.
And audience, get those questions in. We still have time. But this is the last segment coming up, so if you have questions to ask, now's the time to do it.
Yes, do get those questions in askdrhalshow.com, please.
We'll answer them. All right, here is our second cartoon of the evening.
Very good. That one is directed by Bob Clampett, actually.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, who along with Tex Avery and some other animators were relegated to the Termite Terrace, as it was referred to in the Warner Brothers lot, which was a formerly sort of a gardener's shed, place that they were storing a lot of equipment, things like that. So animation is, you know, it goes through cycles. But we do love and revere those old cartoons now.
Yeah. It's amazing that such good cartoons were made in the termite terrace. Clampett himself made that beep sound that you hear
Oh.
in this and other cartoons.
Sounds like a
Interesting.
slide whistle, or did he do that like just
He just
naturally?
did it vocally.
Okay, I had always thought it was done with a one of those sliding tin whistles.
Hmm.
Hmm. You know, there's a story about that. I had one of those as a kid, and my father liked to do 80 miles an hour down 65-mile-an-hour roads. And I was sitting in the back seat of a car one time, and I did the woo, the cop noise from the
Oh.
back seat.
Yeah.
Darn near got
Did
my
he
butt
see?
beat.
He didn't see the humor in it.
No, but I did.
Watch it, Pops.
Well, we have a couple of questions, Dr. Hal, if you're ready.
Sure,
And
let's try it.
Professor Gofflin, I'll bring you back shortly.
Sounds good.
And let's see. I have a $12 question from Reverend Dr. Les.
All right.
And it is, I have a German 30s plate camera I have yet to successfully use. Should I try a fourth time or assume I am in possession of a cursed object?
My suggestion is to try as many times as it takes to get a picture. This instrument is clearly challenging you, and perhaps once you finally manage to make it do what it's supposed to do, you will end up with a superlative image, but you will never know if you give up after a few tries. After all, cameras, especially ones that use chemical film, are not treated with much respect these days. You have the opportunity to produce something by the older method, which may be of lasting beauty and value. So keep going on with your camera. Let it be a challenge to you, as they say.
Let me see. Let me spin the wheels. Spun the wheels this time around. Oh, oh my goodness, we had a few come in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Look at that. Boy, I like when that happens. Let's see, who haven't I read yet? This is a $9 question from simply a Ko-fi supporter. Did not leave a name. Please leave your name if we'd like to know who we're talking to. We'd like to know where our money's coming from. The question is, would you read Hawk Roosting by Ted Hughes?
The short answer is yes, I would, but I'll have to find this poem. So give me a moment to look it up and find it online. Ted Hughes was the poet laureate of the U.S. at one time. Let's just see if we can call it up from the benthic bottom of the internet. This isn't a poem that I have memorized like the other ones that I recite or should have memorized. Sometimes I do get them snarled up.
Pontius Pressure, while Dr. Hal is doing his research, perhaps I can take a moment to drop a few little promotional items.
Why not?
I would like to recommend to everybody that if you are not subscribed to our newsletter, that you do so at your leisure. Reverend Xenofact, if you are still in the Twitch chat, please feel free to drop that link. But the newsletter is going to be the best place to hear about all of our latest shows, all of our upcoming events, places you can see Dr. Hal live and in person. This will be a great benefit to you, and it is free. So yes, Reverend Xenofact, if you would drop the link to the newsletter, it would be greatly appreciated. There it is in the chat now. So please join us there, subscribe, and while you're at it, also Reverend Xenofact is heading up a zine project called The Vault of Slack, which you
Yes,
definitely will want to check out.
another
It's a
Subgenius publication like the Dobstown Mirror, only the Vault of Slack comes from a different part of the Subgenius brain.
Indeed, it does. It's full of art and brand new writing, works in the subgenius genre. So, yes, please check that out if you would. And yeah, we'll go back to you, Dr. Hal. It seems like you're ready.
Yes, I believe so. Thanks, Professor Gofflin. Hawk Roosting by Ted Hughes. I sit in the top of the wood, my eyes closed, in action, no falsifying dream between my hooked head and hooked feet, or in sleep rehearse perfect kills and eat. The convenience of the high trees. The air's buoyancy and the sun's ray are of advantage to me, and the earth's face upward for my inspection. My feet are locked upon the rough bark. It took the whole of creation to produce my foot, my each feather. Now I hold creation in my foot. Or fly up and revolve it all slowly. I kill where I please, because it is all mine. There is no sophistry in my body. My manners are tearing off heads, the allotment of death. For the one path of my flight is direct through the bones of the living. No arguments assert my right. The sun is behind me. Nothing has changed since I began. My eye has permitted no change. I am going to keep things like this. That's an interesting one. Perhaps I should memorize it.
Beautiful poem.
The theme that the poets group that I attend where I can was recently Bird of Prey. I could have used that poem.
Oh, I don't believe I'm familiar. We should do that for a future show if you have it in your repertoire.
Sure.
That would be great. I have another question here for you, though. This is a $21 question, and it is from the Great Bloviator. And it is, "Hi, Dr. Hal, Chet here. Should I nip it in the bud? Sincerely, your friend Chet."
Well, Chet, I would say let it grow out, and you can always nip it. The bud may not appeal, but the full growth might exhibit extraordinary virtues, which in its seed form, it does not have the variety and ability to display. I always say let it go a little bit longer before you do anything drastic and irrevocable. This is a poem by Professor Tolkien. The fat cat on the mat may seem to dream of nice mice that suffice for him and cream, but he, free, may be lost in thought, walks unbowed, proud, where loud roared and fought his kin, lean and slim, or deep in den in the east feasted on beasts and tender men. The giant lion with iron claw in paw and huge ruthless tooth in gory jaw. The pard, dark-starred, fleet upon feet that oft, soft, from aloft, leaps on his meat, where woods loom in gloom. There wanders he, fierce and free. Though tamed is he, the fat cat on the mat, kept as a pet, he does not forget.
This is a $13 question, Dr. Hal, and it is from Johnny is Wrong.
All right.
How do you feel about Daffy Duck's hyper-realistic hand animations in the last segment?
Well, I thought about that actually while I was watching it, and if the hands were less realistic, the idea that there was skill in performing the magic trick, a trick whose parameters are never explained but always taken as a given, would not be so apparent. Also, remember that the hands of Daffy Duck, first of all, have 4 fingers and a thumb. And later iterations, he wore the ubiquitous white gloves of the cartoon character. And each finger is actually a projection of a feathered wing. And the closer you get to that, the more the story is muddled, because the story is that something simple, though inexplicable, has backfired. And we're helped by the circus music that plays during the scene where he first performs the trick successfully and then unsuccessfully.
This is a $5 question from our good friend Reverend Shagath.
Right?
Another is that a proper Lovecraftian pronunciation, Shagath?
I always thought that the first syllable was emphasized as in Shoggoth,
I think
as in the Necronomicon, in the Surah, the curse page, Toglish Shogloth. I admit Shogloth is not Shoggoth. The Shoggoths were created by the ancient race of the ones who dwelled in Antarctica as organic beasts of burden. But of course, they developed on their own and became a menace to their creators.
as
And
they.
I'm sorry, did you mention the question? I seem to have forgotten it.
No,
During-
I didn't. We were on a tangent,
Oh.
but it was a good one.
Oh,
I
all
like
right.
that. Yeah. It's a $5 question, and this is again from Danny Shagath. And Shogoth. Sorry, Danny.
Could be.
Why?
Toglish.
Why do people fight for servitude as if it were their salvation?
I believe they do this because they are tricked into doing so. No one willingly gives up freedom unless that person thinks that this is a way to gain more freedom. And one may indeed gain a kind of freedom, a freedom from responsibility, where someone else and farther up the food chain makes the decisions and the deliberations. But the ultimate freedom is to be bewildered and alone and have to make every decision by one's self and on one's own.
Let's see. I have a question here from STM. It could be STEM, but it's lowercase letters, just STM. And the question is, well, I should say it's for $23.
No.
And the question is, which should one take more seriously? Carlos Castaneda, Aleister Crowley, or Terence McKenna?
I'll give it in this order. McKenna, Castaneda, Crowley, though all have something to give. But when you say take seriously, I feel a faint warning light go on and hear the sound of a distant warning bell, in that one should be an explorer here, but not a seeker, not one attempting to create a structure of faith on the spot. That is never recommended with people who push the boundaries in their work. Pressure, how much did you say this question was
Oh, that was a
sponsored?
$23 question, Dr.
Ah, well, a noble and necessary gift. So here is one by Emily Dickinson. A narrow fellow in the grass occasionally rides. You may have met him, have you not? His notice sudden is. The grass divides as with a comb, a spotted shaft is seen, and then it closes at your feet and opens further on. He likes a boggy acre, a floor too soft for corn. But when a boy and barefoot, I more than once at noon stopped to observe a whiplash uncoiling in the sun, when, stooping to secure it, it wrinkled and was gone. Many of nature's people I know, and they know me, and not without some transport of cordiality, but never met this fellow, attended or alone, without a sinking feeling and zero at the bone.
Well, Dr. Hal, the last question in the queue, apparently. I will certainly go back through it again one more time. But it is a question. I do believe that is not a question. It is an announcement from Reverend Dr. Motomac. And it is a
announcement it may be, but for the sake of the show, we will attempt to tease out the interrogative dimension of the announcement.
There you have it. So here it comes. A reminder that this Thursday, February 22nd, 2024, by Conspiracy Reckoning, Google will no longer carry Usenet. Usenet will not be dead, but it could be considered to be dead for at least the past decade. If not for alt.slack, I never would have met anyone in the church.
Well, that is sad, and grows sadder when we continue to think about how many opportunities are being closed off, not for reasons of necessity, but for reasons promoted by the capitalist structure in which we encounter all of these things. And in fact, on a different level, but with a similar sort of intention, AT&T is suddenly going to be getting rid of all landlines if it is allowed to do so. It's much better, I think, to follow the Japanese way of doing things, which is to preserve all former avenues and technologies simultaneously. That is to say, in Japan, you can get a Blu-ray, a DVD, a VHS, or a Betamax version of a movie. You can get a disc, a big picture disc. All of these things, they keep going because they understand that there is a fascination with the means of delivery themselves. But as for you in your predicament, you can be happy, and you are, that you have encountered the Usenet and have used it to net yourself acquaintances which otherwise you might not have been fortunate enough to make.
I'm scrolling through the queue now, Dr. Hal. I just spun the wheels.
I hope he's enjoying that jacket. Well, you're spinning your wheels, eh? Spinning the wheel of questions.
I think that was the last question.
The last question.
The last question. Here's the skinny screen that we all have to squeeze into.
Oh, that's all right.
Well, for those that might be missing alt.slack, there is, of course, the Mastodon instance Dobbstown, which can be found at dobbs.town, which is maintained by our dear friend Onan Canabite. And that is also a good place to meet fellow subgeniuses and see what is happening in the community.
I think Onan was in the audience tonight. I'm pretty sure I saw
believe
his
so,
name
yeah.
go scroll
Well,
up
let's
by.
hope that he shows up in the after show chat, to which we invite everyone who is now.
Ooh, I need to get that out there. Let me call that up
Indeed,
real quick,
yes.
and I'm gonna put that link out into the world. Hold tight for. I finally fixed my office over here, so yep, their word springs up. Isn't that amazing?
Microsoft, of course, trying to make something obsolete, as it usually does.
Yeah, I've had a. Have I ever mentioned I hate computers? Kind of a love-hate relationship with me.
A push-pull
You
sort
might-
of thing.
You might have. You might have.
There we go. It's in the audience chat, and let me put it over here in this chat as well.
Very good. Yes.
And-
So, audience, please feel free to join us here at the after show chat. The link is in the Twitch chat, and we look forward to seeing you there.
And I think that's all we have for this evening. Let me spin those wheels one more time because I don't want to leave anybody out in the cold.
No, no one should be disenfranchised.
No
But if
one.
it ever does happen, we will kick it forward to the next show, which in this case will be our March show.
March the
Yes,
17th.
17th.
Mhm.
Yes, we will see you again on St. Patrick's Day. Yes.
Oh, really?
And maybe doing it from Stang Ranch in Texas. We'll have to see about that.
Does Reverend Stang know this yet?
He will in the fullness of time.
He does now.
Yes.
Oh dear.
It'd be no problem to one like Reverend Stang, who has done so many shows that he ran out of individual hairs to count them on.
Right? We're this will be 35 shows coming up that we've done.
Mm-hmm.
My goodness. Is it that many already? Wow.
It is. It is. And we've been doing these since 2020, I want to say.
Yeah.
It's taken us 4 years to do 34 shows. Let's not count our chickens before they're hatched.
True.
So,
Before they're hatched.
everybody thought Pink Floyd was doing just fine until they weren't. So, no, we all like each other. So, we'll be doing this for a little while, I think. Well, that's all we have. So, Dr. Hal, there's nothing else in the queue. So, from Professor Gofflin, myself, Dr. Hal, St. Joyce, Reverend Xenofact, St. Andrew, and all the folks that helped the show out, we'd like to thank you all for coming tonight. Hope to see you in the after show chat. And it was another fun show, and I hope you all enjoyed it. And with that, we will see you all next month, March the 17th,
Yes.
same time, same channel. Only on Twitch.
Indeed. Yes. Here on Twitch. And then later on archive.org.
Yeah. Not too much later. Oh, yeah, I should mention before we go, I've started doing a highly edited version of the show and putting it back out on YouTube. What happened when I put it out on YouTube? A piece of classical music that we had that was MIDI generated, I want to say. No, it was another piece of music, but it was one we had permission to use. We got flagged on it, and it was a flag for another band that performed it. It wasn't even the band that we had YouTube. So,
Well,
YouTube.
the bot got confused.
but we are
Yes.
putting the shows back up there, but all as it is the Q&A content. So all the cartoons and all that sort of stuff that YouTube seems to get heartburn over. Even though we are well within our rights to be using this stuff, it's either public domain or fair use.
Well, that should make it travel fast without any of the additions that we include.
But yeah, it does, and I mean it's pretty easy to put that together when I do the edits for the main show that goes up to archive.org. But just to let you all know that we are publishing back out to YouTube again, so you can look for the show, but it will just be the Q&A portions to just avoid that stupid copyright robot that's out there that just scattershot flags everything and has removed content from our show that we've worked hard to produce. It's really annoying.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
gonna get that robot one of these days.
Ooh, if I ever
They're
get
gonna
my
fix
hands on
him
that
real
thing.
good.
Oh, I'm gonna kneecap it.
Yes.
Do robots have kneecaps?
This one will. I'm gonna
Some
give it.
model.
I'm gonna give it one, and then I'm gonna smash it. That's the
They're
nice thing
making
about robots.
humanoid robots in my area. They're making them out here.
Oh, that's true. That's very
Yes.
true.
Oh man, don't get me started, because you know it'll happen.
Mm-hmm.
This will go down a bad road.
Well, maybe. On the other
Or a
hand,
good
there's
road.
no reason to be embarrassed in front of a robot. If a robot is helping you or you're calling upon a robot, you can certainly be yourself, because who cares what a robot perceives?
See, that's what they want you to think. And the whole time they're laughing at you. They're pointing and they're laughing. Robots.
Electronic subspace chatter moving so fast it can't be apprehended by a clumsy human.
Well, in any event, Dr. Hal, we have your final recitation coming up of the evening and the end of the show. So, audience, thank you so much. We can't do this without you, and we look forward to seeing you again next month.
Yes,
Hail
please.
and
And in the
farewell.
after show chat.
All right, and the
Yes.
after show
Take
chat.
care, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your month, and we'll see you soon. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Be sure to join us for an all-new Ask Dr. Hal Show Home Edition, Sunday, March 17th, 2024, only on Twitch. Please visit our website at AskDrHalShow.com for information on where to find this and previous episodes.
The Walrus and the Carpenter by Lewis Carroll. The sun was shining on the sea, shining with all his might. He did his very best to make the billows smooth and bright. And this was odd, because it was the middle of the night. The moon was shining sulkily, because she thought the sun had got no business being there after the day was done. How very rude of him, she said, to come and spoil the fun. The sea was wet as wet could be. The air was dry as dry. You could not see a cloud, because no cloud was in the sky. No birds were flying overhead. There were no birds to fly. The walrus and the carpenter were walking close at hand. They wept like anything to see such quantities of sand. If this were only cleared away, they said, it would be grand. If 7 maids with 7 mops swept it for half a year, do you suppose, the walrus said, that they could get it clear? I doubt it, said the carpenter, and shed a bitter tear. Oh, oysters, come and walk with us, the walrus did beseech. A pleasant walk, a pleasant talk along the briny beach. We cannot do with more than 4 to give a hand to each. The eldest oyster looked at them, but never a word he said. The eldest oyster winked his eye and shook his heavy head, meaning to say he did not choose to leave the oyster bed. But 4 young oysters hurried up, all eager for a treat. Their coats were brushed, their hands were washed, their shoes were clean and neat. And this was odd, because, they hadn't any feat. Then 4 more oysters hurried up, and then another 4, and thick and fast they came at last, and more and more and more, all scrambling through the frothy waves and rushing to the shore. The walrus and the carpenter walked on a mile or so until they came unto a spot conveniently low. And there the little oysters stood before them in a row. "The time has come," the walrus said, "to talk of many things, of shoes and ships and sealing wax and cabbages and kings, and why the sea is boiling hot, and whether pigs have wings. But wait a bit," the oysters cried, "before we have our chat, for some of us are out of breath, and all of us are fat." "No hurry," said the carpenter. They thanked him much for that. "A loaf of bread," the walrus said, "is what we chiefly need. Pepper and vinegar besides are very good indeed. Now, if you're ready, oysters dear, we can begin to feed." "But not on us," the oysters cried, turning a little blue. "After such kindness, that would be a dismal thing to do." "The night is fine," the walrus said. "Do you admire the view? It was so kind of you to come, and you are very nice." The carpenter said nothing but, "Cut us another slice. I wish you were not half so deaf. I've had to ask you twice." "It seems a shame," the walrus said, "to play them such a trick, after we brought them out so far and made them trot so quick." The carpenter said nothing but, "The butter's spread too thick." "I weep for you," the walrus said. "I deeply sympathize." With sobs and tears, he sorted out those of the largest size, holding his pocket handkerchief before his streaming eyes. "Oh, oysters," said the carpenter, "we've had a pleasant run. Shall we be trotting home again?" But answer came there none, and this was scarcely odd, because they'd eaten every one.